What's going on? Captain Paul from TSP. Appreciate it before getting to the video. If you could like, comment, subscribe, helps us with the algorithm. We're a relatively new channel and we're looking to continually grow. We just got over 200 subscribers and we're looking to keep building. So this was a video I saw from Jubilee that was kind of interesting. It was conservative parents versus liberal teens. And I have seen this video covered before, but it's been a while since I've actually watched the video, and I figured I'd give kind of some interesting takes on this subject. So, without any further ado, let's just get right into the video.
And because you stressed out, you go change your gender. Because you want to try something new, once you do it, you can't go back. The more you throw stuff at kids before they develop, that's indoctrination.
Step forward if you agree with the prompt. Cancel culture is a good thing.
Oh, no.
We have the freedom to say what you want, but everyone else has the freedom to respond and cancel you if you say something that is racist, homophobic, transphobic, etc.
What is your opinion on Trump being canceled on Twitter?
When you go onto Twitter, whatever, you check I accept the, guidelines, the community guidelines. I agree to follow them, and he didn't follow them, so Twitter has the right to take him off the app.
And for people that might make the counter argument that Twitter is biased and will only cancel right-wing politicians, that's not true at all. Twitter and other forms of social media have canceled left-wing activists. There is an equal balance on both sides.
Okay, like okay, I have to. I'm sorry. I'm not going to keep breaking it every second, but that has got to be like this. See, this is the problem I have with this argument is that when they're like, oh, well, it's both sides. It's really not. It's not the same at all. Like you see right-wing people taken down far more often left wing, and you'll have like leftists that do, say very hateful and do very evil things, and they'll be given far more chances than a right-wing conservative of just saying their beliefs that, they don't believe in abortion or they don't believe a trans woman's a woman, and they filed that under hate speech. Yes, you are definitely responsible for what you say and what you do on the online community, but speech has changed overall, especially since the internet has evolved into it. And let's be honest, Twitter is one of those spaces where people use to have dialogue. So when you actively keep tearing down right-wing voices and you keep tearing them down and suspending them, blocking them off the platform, it is going to be kind of a negative cancel culture. So yes, they have a terms of service. It's a private entity in some aspect, but free speech has evolved so much where these online spaces are imperative so that people can kind of experience the other voice. And liberals, the liberal bias from Twitter, I just don't agree with. But let's just go into what good old dear old dads will say.
Taliban stones people because they're gay.
If they've done that and they've posted videos of stoning gay people, I agree they should be removed, and that 100%. Is fundamentally wrong.
Except the problem is they're smart enough to not do that.
Well, then why wasn't Trump?
The president wasn't smart enough to not do that, I guess.
If I'm an American and I have to vote between this person, I need equal access to both of them to decide what's right.
Absolutely.
Bro, you can be a Klansman. You can say you hate black people. That's not my job to police your language. I can't expect everybody to love me and think the way I think. All y'all think differently. That's totally dope. But the fact that you want somebody removed because they think differently, that could be you one day.
Do you think freedom of speech is something that still exists in America?
We do have
America is becoming less and less safe.
I have a lot of friends that have been in the military for the last 20 years because they refused to get vaccinated. They told me that they would be dishonorably discharged or kicked out of the military. I just believe we're losing a lot of good servicemen with the current situation that we're in right now.
A lot of police officers are down. Crime is up all over. When police aren't there, we're murdering each other at a really high rate.
Yeah.
Police are in those neighborhoods because the homicide rate is high. Y'all can run around talking about police all you want, but I challenge any of these liberal kids to spend 2 weeks in the environment I grew up in, and I promise your perspective will change.
The one advantage we have about being older, we've been through a threat or two. And our enemies, like China, the Communist Party in China, they're laughing at us. Russia's like, we don't need to do much. They're going to screw it up on their own. We need to get the help of our younger people that haven't been through a threat before to realize a lot of what's going on is not good. If anything, it should be a hint more on the conservative side, because we're going to watch our freedoms get extinguished or encroached if we don't guard those freedoms.
Fuck yeah,
make sure that all of our children have a chance to succeed.
Absolutely.
Can they disagree a step forward?
I think we need to define like kind of like what we mean by like we're less safe now. Do we mean like there's more homicides after COVID, or like what do we mean?
I would say before we got rid of half our military, half our police force, slavery was legal. The Holocaust was legal. So we can look at all of these mass atrocities and say we're doing what's right. Everybody who was a part of the Holocaust government, they were doing what Hitler said. They were doing what was right. So everybody losing their job for not getting vaxxed, and all the vax people, you got who can we control? Everybody who get the shot, that's who's gonna do it. The enemies are coming, and we don't care about that because we want to care about what color we should wear, and pride and critical race theory. It's like no one else cares about that but us in America. That's our problem.
So
Bro, I want to have a beer with this man, dude. This dude is just absolutely speaking nothing but facts here, right? Like nobody gives a fuck, right? Nobody gives a shit about all these issues that Americans put on this high pedestal. Like we have so many different problems going on. And he's right. That these governments that we look down in historical views, that like awful, tyrannical, like Hitler, Mussolini, stuff like that, people that went along with the government. The reason why we have the Second Amendment and the First Amendment, right? We have the Second Amendment to protect the First Amendment is because we don't believe in governments overruling and overreaching into our personal lives. Now, the vaccinations can be a whole different discussion, but I actually believe 100%. If you don't want to get vaccinated because this COVID-19, and it's being kind of proven over time, this COVID-19 vaccination has been, they don't know how effective it's going to be in the long-term effects or the side effects. I believe in your right to make a decision to wait or not get it if you don't feel comfortable with it. And when you have companies and even government entities like the military essentially kicking out good people because they don't want to inject themselves with a test drug, we're kind of leaning a little bit further and further into a socialist type regime.
I don't think that we could create, or the Democrats could create some international plan, getting all of these scientific communities outside of just the US and even international governments on their side for something that they're just trying to get Trump out of office. I feel like that's heavily ridiculous.
Trump was the thorn that nobody saw coming, and they had to find a way to get him out of there. If there's no mail-in voting, 100% Trump is the president right now, 100%.
Yeah, because overwhelmingly mail-in ballots were to Biden. That's obvious. Like,
exactly.
It's not because mail-in ballots are fraudulent, because mail-in ballots are actually not fraudulent at all. That this election was the safest election in recorded history.
Oh, there's a lot of videos.
No. Nope. We're not. No. That's not true. Absolutely not true. That is such a liberal fucking talking standpoint bullshit thing. Listen, there is fraud in every single fucking election. My opinion is that we need to have better verifications. I believe in voter ID for this reason. There needs to be a verified identification to make sure we're not having dead people vote. We're not having all these people vote that don't really have a citizenship. Let's just call it how it is. Like, there was a lot of mail-in ballots from Biden linked to places that don't even have homes, like underneath interstates. And if you don't believe me, you can do your own research. There has been cases of a lot of mail-in ballots where they were fraudulent. So to say that this was the safest election of all time, you're just ignorant, because it's not. There's a lot of issues with the voting in America. And if you don't want to have that discussion, you can't make that standpoint.
My news source is more reliable than the other sides.
When I look at conservative news, I see a lot of conspiracies that I don't necessarily agree with. And so if everything comes from opinion and just people developing their own ideas, it just doesn't seem reliable to me.
I feel like the only way we can get unbiased news is in order for news media organizations to stop prioritizing having really vivid headlines that might not necessarily be 100% accurate.
I think that starts with putting people over profit. They want the biggest story or whatever, and they don't want to actually give the news that would be beneficial to our everyday average Americans. And I think that if we put a lot more focus on putting people first instead of the big news or the big story, we can change that aspect of society.
I agree with you 100%. Like I say the civil rights movement is the civil rights entertainment industry, because it's so profitable. Put a police shooting on TV, it's breaking news, every headline, on every social media, you selling shirts, you're selling signs. That's so much more profitable than showing me and you shaking hands. The news media is literally capitalizing off the emotions of society.
Absolutely.
No matter how you feel about it, handle it in your privacy of your house. Why? Because if you can do it on camera, somebody's gonna make $1 off of it. And that's not fair to you.
Oh,
Young people today are too sensitive.
I gotta say, before we go into this, Johnny, man, if you ever watch this video, bro, I want to get a beer with you, bro. Like, damn, you speak nothing but truth here.
I think it's a good thing that young people are sensitive. I think today they can be more sensitive than what they probably could have been 30 or 40 years ago. You know, the growing up was the Berlin crisis, the Cuban Missile Crisis. I mean, we had the threat of annihilation, you know, staring at us several times. And a lot of times I go, you know, thank God John Kennedy handled it.
The country has been
Absolutely.
spoiled for so long. They're trying to make it so a man can't be a man.
100%.
And if you don't let men be men, then things start crumbling. Society crumbles, families crumble, and broken homes start happening.
And kids need their fathers. So 36% of kids don't have a father. So every boy is, well, my mom is mad at me. My dad don't love me. My dad don't care about me. Maybe I should be gay. Maybe I should be trans. I don't know who I am. And your father puts confidence in you. No disrespect to anybody, but the younger generation of men are soft. And if we had to go to war, they're not protecting America. There's no better place to be as a black individual or whatever you are in America. Go to the Middle East right now and say you gay or you trans and see how they treat you.
One thing I'll have to say is this. I would like to see their evidence. At Jubilee, you can kind of tell it slants a different way. But I would like to see their kind of facts based upon high reliable news sources. Because if they're counting CNN, ABC, where a lot of stories come out and they just get factually incorrect as reliable, we're gonna have a whole different discussion. That's why it's kind of hard for me to take that, and they have that pinwheel of high factuality. It's hard for me to take that completely into context because I don't know what they view as reliable.
Men are being raised by women that they're weaker is, in my opinion, completely false. Our generation, it's not more sensitive. We're more aware of all these things. Being transgender and gay is not something that should be ashamed of or make you feel less. In today's society, that is why women are fighting for equality, because this idea that because they only have a mom, they're weaker, or because, you know, they're more sensitive, that's, in my opinion, completely false.
And I would say in the environment that I grew up in, the teen pregnancies come from girls without fathers. The homicides come from people without fathers. Every girl that I know, if they grow up with a daddy, they get married before they have a kid.
Why do they not have fathers?
If you want me to be real, because a lot of women make bad choices on the men they procreate with. If you make a bad choice, that's your responsibility. Every bad thing that I did in my life, it was when my daddy was in jail. When my dad was out and I had my dad's reassurance, I was a better person.
I had one daughter that had to move across the country to get rid of a toxic relationship with somebody that was harming them.
Why does the woman have to move across the country because the man is being toxic? Why can't the man be taught, don't be toxic?
Oh, I agree.
Women nowadays have to deal with those kinds of relationships. The mother knows better, I would say, than the father about that.
Do you think it would be more beneficial to show police also interacting with white guys? Because more white guys get killed than black guys by cops.
If you look at the amount of white people and the amount of black people, there are going to be more white people killed because there are more white people in America. The percentage of black people that are being killed is higher than the percentage of white people.
Well, just because you're pulled over doesn't mean you have to resist. I mean, they don't just kill you when they pull you over. It's all about based on how you perform as an individual. I've been pulled over and never had a bad interaction in my life. When I was rude, I got snatched out the car. Everything is a personal choice. If you can't take accountability for your life, then you will forever be a slave.
There's larger patrols in Black communities. There are police work longer hours in majority Black communities. So there's an issue from the policing side as well.
Okay, well, the one thing, so I wish my co-host DEG was here because this is actually discussion. We'll probably kind of circle back to this, but a lot of the numbers does show, though, in those minority communities, the violence and the crime rates far higher than in white communities overall, right? Now, don't get this twisted. Don't get angry what I'm going to say. All right? I don't, just calm down. I'll react to what I'm saying. In poverty white areas, there's the same amount of people arrested or killed by cops, right? Because there's a lot of crime. But in a lot of these, and trust me, I work out of Brooklyn. I go through the projects, so I've seen some shit. I'll say this. In those communities, you see a heavy police presence because there's a ton of crime, a ton of gang shit going on. Like shit, you see in New York City, you see the shit that goes on the subway, shootings and stuff like that just happened with a black supremacist. Like, I'm not trying to put those in the same group, the gang shit with the black supremacists, but violence in these communities is far more prevalent. That's why there is a higher police presence. And if you look at the studies that has happened in like places like Sacramento, where they've tried to like kind of cut off the cops, their nuts off, and they've kind of made less police force, made, you know, defunding the police an actual thing, crime has gone up. Defunding the police does not work. Crime in a lot of these cities has gone up due to the angry vitriol that you've seen police officers. And there's not a lot of people that want to be a police officer right now. So for me, you know, yes, on percentage base, and I don't have this in front of me, it'd be safe to assume black people are shot more by police, right? And there has been cases where policemen, policewomen have acted very stupidly and have killed somebody, and they didn't have the right to do that. And those people, and this is my stance on it, if you kill someone while in uniform, wrongly, unjustifiably, it should be a murder charge. There should be no protection. So this is the one thing I do go, aside from a lot of people on the right when it comes to cops, because if a police officer comes into my home, the wrong home, breaks into my place, and I shoot him and kill him, well, that's his fault for not having the correct information. But on the flip side, if someone has a warrant out for you, cops tell you to drop the gun, stop resisting. Trust me, not resisting is going to lead far more fruitful scenario out of the situation than just resisting, running, reaching for your gun. You know, there has to be more accountability from these people, because a lot of these insane shooting stories, like even with the Breonna Taylor, right? When the more facts have come out, right? Like people like, oh, she was shot while she was asleep. It was a no-knock warrant. Well, no, that's not true. Her boyfriend, her scumbag boyfriend at the time, used her essentially as a human fucking shield. Am I saying it's great what happened? Absolutely not. That is unfortunate that any human life was lost. There are certain people I no longer hang out with because they live a life I don't agree with. You, as an adult, you have to make sure you put yourself in a situation or put yourself in the position you're not in that situation. Ton of evidence out there that show police are just trying to do their jobs. You watch the police cam, nobody resists. It goes fine smoothly. That being said, there are those cases that cops overreach and they should be held to the full extent of the law. That is perfectly fine with that. But let's just stop this narrative where cops are shooting friggin' everyone out like hotcakes, because that's factually just not true.
Politics has damaged my relationship with a loved one.
The advent of the Black Lives Matter movement this past year, having conversations with my parents was really difficult, especially around the nuances of racial justice and sort of like what the movement was fighting for and how to articulate that in like the very closed mindset that my parents had.
A lot of my family voted for Trump in the past election, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't like to say this, but it made me view their morals a little bit differently, and they're willing to adapt and change was so different. And
because
I was
Biden was
like,
such a
shocked, 'cause
better
I wanted
selection.
to understand their side and really talk
Jesus.
about it, and I was met with, you're wrong, and we don't want to talk about it. And that kind of really damaged just kind of the way I looked at them.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I also think that it just made me less willing to expend the energy to have political or like just like any like hard conversations with my parents or anyone else in my family. To the conservative parents, why they don't necessarily listen or adapt their own beliefs, whether political or social, based on the conversations they have with their children, and why they're so set in their ways.
Because they have more life experience. My kid isn't going to affect how I look at politics. And no disrespect to these kids, because they're kids, right? They're teenagers. They haven't been through anything. But the reason why a lot of people tend to be more conservative as they get older, it's not because they hate people. It's not because they're bigoted. It's because they've been through it. They understand that, like, okay, I want a little bit more autonomy. I want a little bit more of that money. You know what I mean? I want policies in place. I want a little bit less government. His background, him just saying, like, I grew up in a very poor community. I grew up in a situation where, dependent on those systems. I have to say this. As Americans, are we just enabling people to stay on those systems? Now, they're there for a good reason. There's people like single mothers, single fathers, people in broken homes that really need those systems to kind of sustain themselves. So I'm not saying to abolish them, but maybe we need to have a better system in place where we can kind of offer trade at a discounted rate so that these kids, these parents can get out of these low income situations and start providing more for their family. I don't know. Just I would actually like to make a video on it. Probably going to make one on it. And I currently don't think, I think financially we're probably putting in quite a bit. I don't think we're doing enough systematically to put systems in place or to put, like, I would say, jobs in place and training that they can actually get out of the hood. That's just my opinion, but make a video on that actually.
It's sad. Do all my family members vote the same? No. Do we have a pretty good idea of how family members may have voted? Yeah. But we went more of agree to disagree. I'm not going to not buy you a present for Christmas because, you decided to vote for somebody that I don't like. Give me a break. Families are special. And we've got too many people, as you've talked about, that don't have them.
Who's indoctrinating these kids into becoming LGBTQ and et cetera?
There's a lot of groups out there.
Like?
I've just heard that there's groups out there. I don't know. You don't think there's groups out there that do that?
No.
If I'm not mistaken, the brain isn't fully developed until you're 25 years old, correct?
Yeah, correct.
So I know how I used to think at 16. Man, I know how I used to think at 21. Man, I'm not against kids doing whatever they want. It's just the older you get, you change. I got my first tattoo at 15. I'm covered now. If I was a little older, I probably would have waited. When you're young, you're not thinking. And everybody has made a bad choice. And because you stressed out, you go change your gender. Because you want to try something new. Once you do it, you can't go back. The more you throw stuff at kids before they develop, that's indoctrination because you're trying to get them while they're not fully cognitive to know what's going on.
Oh, Johnny, man. Dude, like, see, the problem I had with that one guy is he wasn't articulating his thoughts. He didn't think of the groups. Like, dude, there's a lot of different groups you could say. Dude, even news media, right? Like, that's kind of forcing this down our kids' throats. There's a lot of different things you could have said there. I'll say good on that one kid, kind of hold like, oh, what groups? He's like, oh, I just heard it. And it's like, bro, like you there's so much you could have said there. We could have really had a discussion about, like, okay, let's talk about it. Like these LGBTQ kids going into, like, having that doctrine teach the kids at a very young age. Like, yo, just let kids be kids. Like, having it into our school systems is fucked. Right? So, goddamn, Johnny's the man. But when it comes down to it, Johnny and me lockstep. It's like, yo, you're 10, 11, 12. Like, that's way too young for that type of shit. Absolutely. Like, yo, let a kid be a kid. And I'll make this completely clear. I do not care if you're gay, straight, bi, asexual, whatever, trans. Yo, live your life, be happy, right? But make that decision when you're adult. And adult, don't be putting fucking kids on puberty blocker because you think that's what they may be.
It's really easy to get clogged up into this groupthink. So I don't expect anyone else to agree with me or feel the way I feel. I just expect you to respect my right to feel this way. I respect your right to feel this way. And we keep it moving.
100% agree. I couldn't agree more, actually.
Awesome. That's a wrap. Thank you so much.
I mean, that was a pretty good episode. That was pretty good episode there. I think a lot of people take for granted in America that, like, we have the highest opportunities out of anywhere in the world. You can go from being essentially nothing to being a millionaire with enough hard work, dedication, and a plan. Is there some luck involved in that? Absolutely. But why do you think everyone in the world comes to the United States of America and moves here? Even people from those Scandinavian countries, because the opportunity to make money, the opportunity to do what you want, free speech, be able to arm yourself with the Second Amendment, isn't held anywhere else in the world. Places like UK can't really have a gun unless you got to go through a very difficult process. Can't really have complete free speech. Places even like Canada, up north of the border, you say things a certain way, you can be jailed for it. So, do I believe personally the United States is the best country? Absolutely, because we have so many freedoms and we have so many opportunities that there's just does not exist elsewhere. And the one, I think, what was her name? Hannah. The one, like, she was like, oh, top 25% women. Well, yes, because women, right, as a whole, you know, it's relatively recently, like, women are out there and in the working place. A lot of women like to stay at home. Like, on percentage base, women just aren't going to be in the top 10 for wealthiest people because there's just not enough jobs out there. And generally with women, I'm not saying all, but generally women raise families. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but I don't think there's anything in today's society that's holding women back. There is no glass ceiling. There is no wage gap. That's a myth. Women are out here, they can make the same amount as men, if not more. So that's my thoughts. So this is a pretty good video by Jubilee. I appreciate the conservative parents versus liberal teens. I'll have to look back, see if they did like the flip of that, where liberal parents versus conservative teens. It'd be very interesting to see. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We're a new channel, just over 200 subs. This is Captain Paul. I'm done talking my shit, and I'll see you in the next episode.